Hello everyone, welcome to the Tuesday Travel Chat. I am Natasha Ho. Thank you for joining me. I'm so excited to have you with me. Before we dive into the content for today, I just wanted to give a huge thank you to everyone who participated in the invite challenge that we had last week. Congratulations to Sandy and Rebecca on taking home the prizes, and thank you just to everyone who has been inviting and sharing the group with your friends. I so appreciate all of you who have helped to grow our community. Things falling down behind me. So I'm super excited for all of the new people that are here and a part of the community that we have here in the group. So welcome to everyone. And for today, we are headed off to a new adventure. This week, we are headed to the beautiful island of Cuba. And this destination was a recommendation from Maria. So thank you so much, Maria, for recommending Cuba. It's one of the most fascinating places that I've ever been in my life. So I'm super excited to share with you how to bring a Cuban staycation home. Cuba, like I said, it's a really fascinating place. It has so much culture. It's known for really being a vibrant place with amazing art and really just over the top things that you won't find anywhere else in the world. And it's kind of like a time capsule in a weird way with the advent of communism there, but there's so much more to Cuba than communism and the Castro family. And so today I want to share with you how to share with you all those other parts of Cuba and share with you how to recreate a Cuban staycation or a Cuban vacation at home, a Cuban staycation. So we'll talk about the things that you can eat, do, and watch to create a Cuban staycation and bring a slice of Cuba home to you. So the first place I want to start was just like a little bit about Cuba. Where are we going in the world? Cuba is in the Caribbean. It's the largest island in the Caribbean, and it's located right between Haiti and Mexico. And like I said, it has a really amazing culture, a lot of art, a lot of cool architecture, and all sorts of things that we'll be able to go over today. But the first thing that I want to talk about, the thing that really I think of when I think of Cuba and what I think a lot of people think of with Cuba, is the amazing cocktails that come from Cuba. This is probably the introduction that a lot of us have to Cuban culture, is through drinking, funny enough. But Cuba has 4 famous cocktails that come from the islands. They're all rum-based cocktails because Cuba is known for their rum. When the European colonizers came to Cuba, they were planting sugarcane there, and so with the sugarcane production, that led to the creation of rum, which, if you've ever heard anything about human history, it always seems like when we create some kind of plant or have a surplus of something, we find a way to turn it into alcohol. It's like corn, alcohol; wheat, alcohol; grapes, alcohol. We always find a way to turn it into alcohol. So no difference with sugarcane. That's how rum came to be. And so Cuba has some really amazing rum, and that led to the creation of some delicious cocktails. The 4 cocktails that I want to share with you today are the mojito, the cantanchara, the daiquiri, and the Cuba Libre. And so I think doing a Cuban-inspired happy hour at home is the perfect way to start your experience of a Cuban staycation. Super easy to recreate and do at home, but really will transport you with the tastes of Cuba. And a lot of the ingredients are actually indigenous to Cuba, and that's how these cocktails came to be. So the first one that I have a little sample here. It's truly, honestly, aside from doing this video, it's absolutely my favorite cocktail. It is the mojito, and a mojito has simple ingredients. It is lime, it's a mint, a little bit of simple syrup, and rum mixed together with club soda, and you just muddle the mint together and add all the other ingredients, and you have an absolutely perfect, refreshing cocktail. The cocktail actually started out with some medicinal uses. They were originally using this to cure people's ailments, so this is something that they used to give sick people. I don't know when they figured out that maybe it wasn't curing people, but it was getting them a little bit tipsy. So that is the mojito. The next one is the cantanchara, and this is actually a Cuban drink that I didn't know that much about and was really fascinating to learn about. Cantanchara, this one originated in the inland part of Cuba in the city of Trinidad, and it's said to be the oldest cocktail that is from Cuba, and it's a mixture of lime, honey, and rum, I believe. It's just, yeah, just those 3 ingredients: lime, honey, and rum. And I haven't tried it yet, so I'm gonna be trying to make that one because I just got all my ingredients today, but it sounds super delicious. The other one is a daiquiri. And the daiquiri, hey Richard, this part is perfect for you. We're talking about drinking, so I'm sure you'll be right at home. So the daiquiri is, most of us are familiar with the daiquiri. It's kind of like a slushy thing, but that's not at all what a true daiquiri is. Like, a true daiquiri is a very refined drink that is a balancing act between the ingredients with the sourness of the lime, the sweetness of sugar, as well as the sweetness of rum. And so you really, it's a really great way to experience the flavors of Cuba. And the daiquiri was made famous by a restaurant in Havana called Floridita, and it's said to have been Ernest Hemingway's favorite drink, and so that's how it became super, super popular, because Ernest Hemingway, the writer, was very popular, and he would always be pictured in Cuba with a daiquiri in his hand. So that's another great one to try. And the last drink is Cuba Libre, and this one is, it became popular because Coca-Cola was around in Cuba when the United States was helping Cuba during its War of Independence to liberate it from Spain. And so they had Coca-Cola, they had rum, they mixed those together, and the name Cuba Libre came about. This means free Cuba, which ties in with their war for independence from Spain. So that's how it got the name and where the ingredients came from. So another cool one for you to try. The ingredients for all of these are super simple, may even be things that you have sitting around: Coca-Cola and a little bit of rum, but it'll definitely transport you right to the island of Cuba. And they're all super, super tasty and refreshing, perfect for summer. I highly recommend you trying out a new one or one that you've had before that you already like. And if you can get your hands on some Cuban rum, obviously that is perfect and would be delicious in these, but any kind of rum that you like will work really great in all of these cocktails. And I have the exact recipes for you in the link in the blog post that is in the description box, so you can check that out. Has all the details for the recipes and everything else that I'll be talking about today for recreating your Cuban staycation. The other thing that Cuba is really well known for is, of course, cigars. Everyone knows about Cuban cigars. They're world renowned, known as some of the best ones in the world. And the reason that cigars from Cuba are heralded as being so good is, one, the tobacco in Cuba is very unique. The tobacco is just like how grapes from a certain part of the world will be unique based on the soil there and the sun and everything about the local land. So the tobacco in Cuba is really amazing. It's been there for hundreds and hundreds of years. And then on top of that, the care that goes into the making of the tobacco as well as the cigar itself. It's an art form that Cuba has been practicing for many generations. A lot of the people that work on these farms have worked there. Their father, their grandfather, their great-great-grandfather, they all work there on the farm. So that's why Cuban cigars are so well known. Getting your hands on a Cuban cigar can be a little bit more difficult, especially if you're in the US. But if you can get your hands on a Cuban cigar, they are absolutely one of the best in the world. If you can't, you can always try another kind of cigar. And if you don't want to do tobacco, I also have a couple of video documentaries that are in the blog post that I think are super worth exploring, because, like I said, there's so much history and generations and generations that have made this into an art form. So it's more than just tobacco. It's absolutely an art in the island of Cuba. And if you want to experience smoking a cigar like a true Cuban, when I was on the island and I met a tobacco farmer in Viñales, he shared with us the way that they smoke and enjoy their cigars. So in the morning when they have a cigar, the first thing they do, obviously you have coffee in the morning, so you dip your cigar in the black Cuban coffee in the morning and enjoy your coffee tinged cigar. And then in the afternoon, they have honey that's on the farm, and so they dip their cigar in honey for their afternoon cigar. And then in the evening, you're gonna have a little cocktail. So of course they dip their cigar in a little bit of rum for their evening cigar. So every cigar, every time of the day, you can enjoy the delicious tobacco of Cuba as well as all the other flavors at the same exact time. So that's how you can enjoy your cigar the very Cuban way. And if we're talking about all the flavors of Cuba, the next thing obviously we have to talk about is Cuban food and how to bring the flavors of Cuba home into your kitchen. And I know that a lot of people, when they think of Cuba, they may think of like a Cubano, a Cuban sandwich, but that is actually not a Cuban dish. It is an Americanized version of a Cuban dish. The Cuban version is called the medianoche. It's a little bit different than the one that you might have if you're like in Miami or somewhere in Florida. That version has been Americanized based on the ingredients we have here in America, but if you were to have it in Cuba, the bread would be different. It's a sweeter bread, so that's the one difference. Most of the ingredients are the same, but it is slightly different, and that version's called the medianoche. But the dish that I recommend you have if you want to have a true taste of Cuba in your kitchen is called ropa vieja, and that dish is the national dish of Cuba. Directly translates, it means old clothes, old clothing. And the reason they call it that is because when you cook it, it kind of resembles old rags that are kind of in a pile, because it's made with shredded beef that is stewed together with vegetables. And so ropa vieja, you'll find it throughout Latin America. It's a very old dish, but in Cuba, it's one that is very, very popular. Usually that's served over rice or black beans. It's really actually easy to make. You can just toss it all in the slow cooker and have it ready in a few hours. So I highly recommend trying ropa vieja as a way to taste the food of Cuba. And I have a couple things that I also recommend that you pair with it, some accompaniments that will give you some tastes of the islands. So the first one that I recommend you try with your ropa vieja is a plantain. So plantains, it kind of resembles a banana, but it doesn't taste or feel very much like a banana. The plantains, they grow out throughout Latin America, and they're used in a lot of Latin American cuisine. When it comes off the tree, it's green like this one, and the texture of the plantain, the flesh on the inside, it's very firm and starchy. And the way that you would prepare this, usually you would see it, it's used for things like tostones, which you kind of mash it and then fry it, and then, you fry it and then you mash it and then you fry it again. And that would be a tostones, or you might see it used for chips, plantain chips, which are very, very delicious. That's how you use the green one. It's more firm, not very sweet. It's more like you use it in savory ways. Then as you keep the plantain longer, it'll ripen more and more, and this one is a little bit closer to ripeness, and you'll see it starts to turn more yellow and then it turns to black. And the longer that you have it, the darker it gets, and the darker it gets, the more sweet the flesh on the inside is. So it'll become much softer and sweeter, and the way that you would eat this one would be for things like maduros, which is a sweet plantain that's deep fried. Absolutely delicious. My favorite things I grew up eating. My family is from Panama, so we ate plantains, and absolutely delicious. So if you can get your hands on a plantain, hold on to it for a couple days until it ripens. Then you get some sweet plantains, maduros, absolutely delicious. Highly, highly recommend having that. And the other thing that you can try, which is a plant from the islands, very common in Cuba, is yuca. It's also known as cassava or manioc, and you can find both of these ingredients. You can find them at some local grocery stores. I know plantains carried in a lot of major grocery stores. The yuca might be better to try a Latin grocery store or an Asian grocery store, but super easy to find in most like kind of international grocery stores. So the yuca is a tuber plant. So this thing grows under the ground, and it is used, it's a starch. It's used in a lot of ways similar to like a potato, and you can make it into French fries, yuca fries. You can turn it into a mash, and it's a very common thing that's eaten throughout Cuba. So I highly recommend adding these two with your ropa vieja for a taste of the Cuban cuisine. And the other thing that when I think of Cuba and think of Havana, I always think of is music and dancing, because you see movies about Cuba or about Havana are always about the rhythms and the sounds of the city, and Havana nights are filled with dancing and nightclubs and all of that. So in order to bring a taste of Havana home, you have to hit the dance floor and learn some moves. Cuba is actually the birthplace birthplace of a lot of dances that are popular all around the world. First and foremost, salsa. Salsa dancing was originated in Cuba. Also, the cha-cha-cha comes from Cuba. Rumba, the mambo comes from Cuba. It's really the birthplace of a lot of different dances. And so I think it's the perfect way for you to incorporate something into your staycation that will make you feel like you're in Havana, in Cuba, is to do some dancing, learn how to salsa. And if you have two left feet or you're a little nervous about dancing, you don't have to worry, because you get to do this all in the comfort of your own home. So nobody has to see you if you're, you know, stumbling over yourself a little bit. You'll pick it up really quickly. The salsa is actually a very easy dance when you know the basic steps to it. So I've included a tutorial for you in the blog post, and it'll take you through the basic steps of a salsa. It's really fun once you get the hang of it and you get your steps together. It's a really great fun. And of course, we can't talk about salsa and dancing without talking about the music of Cuba. There's so many amazing artists that have come from Cuba and lots of great music. It's been a really influential point for all of Latin America. The sounds that you hear from Cuba has really influenced everything from, you know, Latin America to all around the world. And the music of Cuba, you'll hear sounds that are inspired by African music as well as European music, and it's almost hard to describe like all the different sounds that come through within Cuban music. So I wanted to play for you guys a couple different samples of Cuban music to give you an idea of the things you may not even realize how much you've heard Cuban music if you've heard any other kinds of styles of music. So I'm going to go through a couple of these and play them for you. Let's pull these up. I know Isaac always enjoys when we have music, so this one's for you, Isaac. We're gonna have some music. So the first one here is, this style is called son cubano. You guys can hear that. I mean, surely it just makes you want to dance, right? And then we move on to the next style, and the next style is a rumba. I'll skip a little ahead so you... And then the next style we have is a bolero, which will be quite a change of pace from the other that we just listened to. You can hear like African sounds kind of integrated. A lot of the drums that you hear in Cuban music is from the African influence. And then we have another one, which is, oh, this one's also bolero. This one is Nueva Trova. But you see, it kind of starts to pick up. This is a more modern style of Cuban music. I think this came out around the 80s. And then we move on to, of course, salsa music, which is known everywhere all around the world. And the singer of this song, her name is Celia Cruz, and she's known as the queen of salsa music, and she is heralds from Cuba. So I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a taste of the sounds of Cuba, because we may not even realize how much we've already been acquainted with some of these cultures through everyday life. And I think that you can create a really amazing staycation by just bringing in some of these sounds, the rhythms, the dance, because that's really a big part of the culture in Cuba, is experiencing that. So super easy to do and also a lot of fun. So the next thing, I have a playlist also. I have a complete playlist for you in the blog post, so please do check that out. You do not want to miss that part. The music is absolutely essential, and like I said, so much fun. So another thing that Cuba is known for, speaking of dancing, that you might not realize Cuba does really well and excels in, is ballet. Ballet is a really big part of the culture in Cuba, and I didn't realize this until I went there, and I actually was visiting a ballet school. And the reason that ballet is such a big part of the culture in Cuba is a woman, her name was Alicia Alonso, was a ballerina. She studied and she decided to create a school in Cuba. She became Fidel Castro's favorite ballerina. He supported her, helped her to grow the school. And so now ballerinas that that are a part of the national company in Cuba, they're treated like rock stars. They're the celebrities in Cuba. They're celebrated throughout the country for performing the art. So something that you may not have realized about Cuba is ballet is a really big part of their culture, and a great way for you to experience that is by watching a performance from the national company. And I was able to pull a video that you can watch for their show. They did a performance of Coppelia, and this is a really interesting ballet. I have only been to the ballet maybe twice before, but I was watching through this one. It's super interesting. It is about a doll that was sitting on a balcony. A man walks by, doesn't realize it's a doll. He falls in love with this beautiful doll, and then he's engaged to a woman, and so he decides that he doesn't want to marry the girl that he is supposed to marry because he wants to marry this beautiful woman who he doesn't know is a doll. So his fiance decides to pretend to be the doll. She impersonates the doll as if the doll has come to be with him, and he falls in love with her, who he doesn't realize is his fiance, and that's kind of the story. It's very interesting, but I mean, the dancing was absolutely incredible and beautiful. So ballet, I don't ever know. The stories are a little weird to me, but the performances, the dancing is always top-notch and incredible. Highly recommend watching that. I also found a documentary that I wanted to share with you, which is about Alicia, and it follows some of the dancers who are in her company. So you can actually meet the dancers and understand the stories behind what drew them to ballet and how they became ballerinas, and trying to rise through the ranks to become the stars of the company. So it's called Horizontes, and there is also a link to that for you in the blog post. Really, really interesting to understand more about her. She's at the head of the company. She's like 95 years old in the documentary and still running things. She's absolutely a powerhouse, and it's really cool to hear more about her story. So that link again is for you in the blog post. And speaking of documentaries and films, I always say in these videos that I think that movies are a really great way for you to immerse yourself in another culture through the storytelling, through the visuals and the immersion in the culture, and being able to hear the stories directly from the people who live there in that place, in that destination. So I pulled some movies that I highly, highly recommend that I think are great, especially with Cuba, since we don't have a lot of representations or experience with Cuba. I think that movies are such an awesome way for us to get immersed in the culture and in the destination within the location itself. The first one is available on Netflix, and it is an 8-part documentary series called The Cuba Libre Story, and it covers 500 years of Cuban history. So from the beginnings of recorded history when the Spanish conquistadors arrived, all the way through communism and modern day. It covers absolutely everything. It's this really, really great documentary series. So if you want to understand anything about Cuba and its history, this is a really great place to start. You'll learn a ton, and you get to see a lot of really cool imagery and historians that are from Cuba being able to tell and share the stories about their country. So that's the first one. The next one is a documentary called the Buena Vista Social Club, and it is about a band, which was actually one of the bands that I was playing when I shared with you the music. The Buena Vista Social Club is a group of musicians. They reached worldwide acclaim. They were from Cuba, and so a documentary filmmaker, after they had reached this worldwide huge boom of success, he came in and did some interviews with them and talked to them about the experience of being like in Cuba, in communist Cuba, but also being a worldwide sensation, and what was it like for them, and how they were dealing with that once they came back home. So it's a really interesting documentary. The Buena Vista Social Club, it's also the name of an actual social club that's there in Cuba, so you can go see live performances of some of those musicians, as well as younger musicians who have kind of taken on that legacy. So really cool documentary to get a really close inside look, since, like I said, music is a huge part of the culture in Cuba. This is known as one of the best musical documentaries of all time. So definitely check that one out. And the last one is a fictional story. In case you're not into documentaries, you don't want to watch a documentary. This one's called Papa Hemingway in Cuba, and it's an American film that was shot in Cuba, and it was the first American film to be actually filmed in Cuba in more than 50 years. And this one is about Ernest Hemingway, the writer. He's living in Cuba, and there's a young writer who's in the US who admires him and wants to learn from him. And this is actually based on a true story. So he wanted to learn from him, so he writes to Ernest Hemingway. Ernest Hemingway thinks that he's a great and talented writer, so he invites him down to Cuba, and they have this meeting, but it happens in the midst of the Cuban Revolution. So there's a lot of crazy things happening, and while you're kind of getting to know these two characters. So it's a fictional story, but cool way to kind of learn a little bit about Ernest Hemingway, because he brought a lot of attention to Cuba and made it such a destination for a lot of people because they admired Ernest Hemingway, and learn a little about kind of the revolution and what was happening during that era. So I recommend that as another one to check out if you want to watch a film about Cuba. So I think that is everything that I had to share with you guys today. Cuba is absolutely one of the most fascinating places, like I said already. You can see a couple of my souvenirs. This is my humidor box that I brought back. I don't smoke cigars, but this box I just thought was so cool. It's like, yeah, got space in there for my non-existent cigars, but really cool. I thought the woodwork was really awesome, so I wanted to display that, share that, show it off while you guys are here with me to chat about Cuba. I also had a sign over here that I tried to hang up, but it kind of slid over. I was thinking I might give this away, so if anybody is interested, maybe I might do a giveaway to give this one away to a lucky winner. It's a really cool metal like poster thing. So yeah, that is absolutely it. Like I said, thank you again, Maria, for this recommendation. I think that Cuba is such an awesome destination. If any of you have other requests of places that you think would be fun to travel to for another staycation video, please do let me know. Write that down in a comment, or you can send me a direct message, and I would be happy to consider that for a future video. And thank you again for all the new people who have joined us. Super, super excited to have you here, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye, everybody.